Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And today I have both of the Melody Beatty books with me, ready to read some meditations from them. And I think I'm going to check them both out today and see what they both say. I'm not sure if I'm going to read one I always say I'm going to read two meditations, and then I get into one, and I start getting long-winded about whatever I'm talking about, and then I never get to the second one. So let's go in and see what they both say. I think today is the 7th. Today is the 7th. Let's go in and see what they both say for today. In the language of letting go, the meditation for today is relationships. Yesterday's was enjoying life. Today's is relationships, and the one from yesterday is enjoying life. So those might be good ones. And then from Journey to the Heart, I want to go in here. I haven't read from this in a couple days, so go back and look at, I pulled it right open to November 7th. You are being led, says on November 7th. November 6th, let's see what it says. Value each moment. November 5th, create your destiny from your heart. Move on to joy. See how much easier life can be. You haven't lost your place from November 3rd. Maybe we should read You Haven't Lost Your Place from November 3rd. That might be a good one. Now watch, I'll get into this and I'll be like, you already read this one? Okay. You Haven't Lost Your Place, November 3rd. Sometimes when life shifts and changes, it can feel like we've lost our place. During those times when our lives are changing, we may feel out of tune, out of rhythm, out of balance, out of step. Maybe an old feeling is surfacing, clearing, so that we can learn something new and move forward to a new place. Maybe our attention is being diverted to a new focus so we can find and experience another lesson. Sometimes the form or shape of our life is changing dramatically. The old picture is being erased so a new one can be drawn. Familiar people are leaving, new people are entering. We may ache, feel irritable, and doubt the course of our entire journey. We may doubt whether the magical way we were living was even real and whether the magic will ever return. Let the change happen. Take extra loving care of yourself. Be attentive to what you need. The magic isn't gone. It hasn't disappeared. You're just going through a shift. That means things are moving and movement is good. For now, it may feel like you can't find your place, but that's because your place is changing. Oh, wow, this is really apropos for myself in my life right now and everything I'm going through. And it's interesting whenever I read these meditations and kind of like where my mind goes and to things from the past. I'm a believer, and I just talked about this in my video that I did the other day. I'm a believer that I have to, when I was talking about like when you're going through hard times, remember the things you went through in the past to remind yourself, I made it through that, I can make it through this. I am somebody that looks at things in my past. I'm a believer that, history repeats itself unless lessons are learned. And I think it's important to remember things that I've gone through in my past. When I think about periods of change in my life, there is a significant year of my life that was probably the most profound in me and everything changing in my life. And it began in December of 2007 when my ex and I broke up. And my ex and I thought that we would be together for the rest of our lives. I think both of us believed that. Nothing catastrophic happened to break us up. It just, we realized one day that we really weren't romantically in love anymore. That we loved each other very much as very dear friends, but we just weren't really in love anymore. And it was sad. I think it was a sad realization for both of us. And so that breakup happened early in December. And then around that same time, right after that, I decided that I was going to resign from my position. I was working in a treatment facility. And at that point, I was coming up on my 13th year of working there. And so I thought that following May would be my 13th anniversary. And so I thought I would be there. I thought I would retire from there. I thought I would work there for the rest of my life. And I can remember, so I had a trip planned already. My mom and I and my ex would always go to Gatlinburg, Tennessee every year. And we would rent a cabin and everything. So we already had that cabin rented. So my mom and I were still going to go, even though my ex and I had broken up. And that trip was just kind of like a sad trip anyway. It just was, I just feel like it was a lot of closure. Like the day before I went on vacation, I think we left on like the 23rd. I went in and I sat down with my supervisor. And I still to this day, I can remember it. Like I had like sent her an email earlier in the morning and I was like, can we sit down sometime today and talk? And she was like, yeah. And so it was like later in that afternoon, right before she was getting ready to leave. I I feel like I'm going to get emotional telling this story. I don't know why, but I can remember sitting down with her, and so she called in our team leader, like, after all this, and so I sat down and I looked at her, and she and I had become very, very close through the years, and I said, I need to talk to you about something, and she looked at me and she just started crying. She said, you're going to leave, aren't you? And I said, yeah, I think it's time for me to go. And I feel like at that point in my life, I was going through so many significant changes in my life, and really trying to, like, figure out who I was and what I wanted out of life. And I was, I'd been in this position where I thought I was going to be in this relationship for the rest of my life. And I thought that I would be in, and that kind of challenged everything in my life. Did I even want to live in Indiana anymore, And did I want to continue working? I thought I'd work at this treatment facility for the rest of my life. I really did. I thought I would retire from there, 13 years there was a good career, but I thought that I would retire from there. And I thought that I would work with the same people every day. It's so bizarre in retrospect, because I'm still friends with a few people that I worked with, but, like, everybody left from there. It wasn't just me. I was, like, kind of like the catalyst, and then after me, it was like every 3 months somebody else left, that we were all part of this team. And so it's completely, like, none of us work there anymore. We all do different things, and a lot of us aren't even, like myself, aren't even in the same field anymore. But I can remember sitting down with her, and she said, you're going to leave, aren't you? And she started crying, and I started crying, and it was a hard day, and I can remember after that, she said, can I call in the team leader? And so she called her in, and she started crying because we had all gotten so close, and that was the second thing that happened. And then my mom got really, really sick, and then I left at the end of January from my position. I left working in treatment at the end of January, and I think it was the last Thursday of January that year of 2008 was my last day. And then in February, I was, like, so busy that month afterwards that I used to, like, stop in and see my mom, like, once a week. And I hadn't really been stopping in. I'd been keeping up with her and talking to her and stuff like that. And my mom was talking about how she felt really sick. Like, she had the flu and she just didn't feel great. And she was having a hard time getting up and downstairs. My mom was somebody, at this point, she was 64 years old. She was walk every day, 10 miles. She was a big walker and very healthy and stuff like that. And so for her to get sick, it was very bizarre. And I don't think I was really even, like, cognizantly aware, like, or worried about it. It's weird in retrospect. See, this is where I, like, say I'm going to read one meditation, then I get into all this kind of stuff. But I found journals of my mom later, where when we were in Gatlinburg that Christmas, my mom and I, which was a very lonely Christmas because it was just the two of us. And I remember, like, I found journals of hers later where she was, like, writing while we were on vacation. And she would say things like her stomach really hurt and she didn't understand why. And she couldn't keep down, like, my mom would eat an orange and a cup of coffee every morning for breakfast. And she was like, I can't even keep an orange down. I don't know why. And she was not throwing up, but she wasn't telling me that. So I didn't know. And so then she got sick in February, and I didn't really see a lot of her. And and I can remember coming over and her just, like, not being really able to get off the couch. And my aunt had been taking care of her and checking in on her, and then I just got very, very involved. And then from that point, I think that was, like, the second week maybe of February, my mom was, like, in and out of the hospital a couple times, and then till the final time, and then she was in a coma. And then my mom passed away in May. And after that, it was like, boom, boom, boom. It was like three things. Like the end of a relationship, the end of a career, and then the end of my mom being here. Which I don't know that I was ever prepared for. I don't think anybody ever was prepared for losing somebody in their life. I don't know that I knew. I just couldn't even conceptualize losing one of my parents at that point. My mom was 64. I was young. I was 35 years old at the time. And I just felt shell-shocked. I just felt absolutely shell-shocked. I think all of it together was part of why I felt so numb afterwards. And then after that, I just was numb for a long time. I didn't really appropriately feel my grieving feelings. And that summer, I started visiting. So I turned 36 in June. My birthday's in June. And I started that summer in June visiting my friend that lived in Denver. And I was going out there to visit him like every 2 weeks. And I went out there, I don't know how many times in that summer. 5-6 times that summer or something like that. I was going out there and then 2 weeks would go by and I'd go out there again. I was flying out there like every 2 to 3 weeks. And I really had decided that I was going to move to Colorado. There really wasn't a whole lot that was keeping me here at that time, except for my best friend Tanya and my dad and my stepmother. And my dad and my stepmother were like, go. If you want to go, like, I want you to be happy. And they were really encouraging of that. So I wasn't really, I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to move somewhere else and whatever. I was pretty, like, I had decided I was going to move to Colorado. I even knew where I was going to move. There was an area of Denver that I liked called Lodo. And I had found this like warehouse apartment building that I really liked. And we would drive by it. And I was like, this is where I want to live. And it was affordable. I could, whatever. And so that was that. I reached out to Alex. I I'd like seen him out with some friends, and I'd seen him a message. We've told the story a million times in Q&As, but couples Q&As. But I'd sent him a message, and he really wasn't interested in going on a date. And I think that was like right before my mom passed away. That was in April. And so that summer, he had reached out to me a couple times. Well, I wasn't really that interested. He had told me he was still interested in his ex at that point. And I wasn't really that interested because I was going to Colorado and I knew that I was going to move there and whatever. So I kind of kept on putting it off. He kept on asking me, like, were we going to go on a date? And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I kept on putting it off. And so in August, the last time that I went to Colorado, like my plan was to come home and tell my aunt and uncle and Caroline and my dad and my stepmom and Tanya and everybody that I was moving and I was going to be out of here by October. I think my lease was up in October and I was like, I'm moving in October. That was just my plan. And so I remember I came back and Alex had sent me a message again, and he was like, like, do you still want to go on this date? And I remember I called my friend in Denver, and I said, I've canceled him like twice, like, I don't really want to go on this date or whatever. And I felt very lost in my life. Like, in retrospect, like, the way I've explained it to people is I felt like I had, like, like, when you have your legs on two ground and it's, like, shifting and you feel like you're losing grounding. That's literally how I felt in my life. Like, I couldn't accept the change. I was like, I had one foot in my old life that no longer existed in any capacity whatsoever. My job, my relationship, my mother. I mean, nothing that I held on to in the past or I knew was even there anymore. And I didn't know what my future held for me. And I felt like I just was lost in today, And so I reached out to my friend. I was talking to him and I said, this guy was like, I met, I kept on like, I asked him on a date. He wasn't interested. Now he's interested. And he keeps on asking me out. I've canceled on him twice. And he goes, just go on the date. He was like, best case scenario, you make a friend, or worst case scenario, you make a friend, and then, whatever. And I go, yeah, but what's the point? Like, I'm moving out there, to Denver, and I met a lot of friends. I made a lot of friends in the Denver area, and I was like, I'm moving out there. There's no point. He goes, well, it's just a date. He's like, don't take it too seriously. So then we go on the date. And I can remember Alex to this day walking in front of the car, and I was like, I'm so screwed. Like, I'm so screwed, I just knew it. Like, I just felt like this connection there. And Alex and I were always a relationship that, like, it's so bizarre when we look back. We've been together 16 years and we've been married 13 years. That in retrospect, I look back, we were surrounded by a lot of people that were getting together that year. Like, most of our friends were getting in relationships, or we were all in this big friend group and people were getting together and dating. And we're like, it's like us and two other couples out of like probably like 50 people that are still together to this day. And we were never the couple. I mean, neither one of us got in this relationship and wanted to be in this relationship. So the fact that we're here 16 years later, I think it's crazy, crazy in love, I guess. I don't know. And we've worked very hard, but neither one of us really, I think at any point in that first 2 years could have walked away just very easily. It wasn't like we were like holding on to something. I mean, it was very lighthearted, like our first year. It wasn't, I told him I loved him very quickly because that's how I feel about people. But even after that, if it hadn't worked out, I wouldn't have been crushed about it. I would have moved to Denver, But then Alex and I met, and then our families met. And I met his family, and he met my family, and then our families met, and we got to know each other, and we started getting invested in each other, and this new world was created for me, And at first it was scary to me. I can remember, like, I talk about Christmas a lot. Our Christmases are totally different because Alex is from Venezuela, and in Venezuela they do all their Christmas celebrations on Christmas Eve. It's very fun and loud and dance music, not dance music, but like Venezuelan dancing music, happy music. And Christmas Eve for me had always been very quiet and dress up and candlelit and stuff. And so that's just one example of what change was like. That's something that I love today, Now my cousin Caroline, she comes over and does all that with them on Christmas Eve and stuff. And then my in-laws come over to her house for Christmas Day and whatever. And, but I think I was scared of that change. I think I was scared of, for me, change was something I was always very, very scared of. I'm not today. I'm not scared of change. I embrace it most times, unless it's something that brings a lot of fear. And then I hesitatingly embrace it, but I try to embrace it. I try to embrace it and realize that in that period of my life that I was going through, where it was like, first I lost this relationship that I thought I was going to be in for the rest of my life. I was devastated after we broke up. And then even though it was my choice to leave my career, I didn't really know. I was like, I felt so lost after that. And then that happened. And then my mom passed away. And I thought everything that I've known for literally the last 10 to 15 years is gone in my life. Like, all the security. I had a very good friend of mine that, like, one of my very best friends since I'd ever come out, like, he moved away to New York, and I had another friend of mine that moved away. And so, like, everything that I knew from my past was going away. It was scary. It was really, really scary for me, So when people reach out to me and they're like, I'm going through a change period in my life, I don't know what to do. I don't know really what to say, is just put one foot in front of the other. I am a believer that at some point we make sense out of all of it, you know, and that things that don't feel comfortable to us now will eventually feel comfortable. If you're going through a change right now, you know, I always, like, I back in the day, I would say I was resistant to change. I wouldn't say that today. I would say today I try to embrace change. But I think I was resistant to change because I was scared of it. But change occurs whether you want it to or not. Things are going to change in the world. Things are going to change in your personal life. Things are going to change in your family. You know, people and pets are going to come and go. You can't stop that. And so if you're resistant to it, what that really means is that you just stay in denial about change occurring in your life. You know, I look back on that period of my life, and as sad as it was, it really opened the doors for a lot of really magical things that happened in my life, like the meditation talked about. Like my relationship with my husband today, 16 years. 16 years. It hasn't been all magic, but there's been a lot of magic there. And his family, and our family, my family, you know, and the wonderful dogs that we've had together, and the wonderful trips that we've taken. All of that came out of that period of change that I really didn't know what to do. I really didn't want to, you know, put one foot in front of the other. You know, and interestingly enough, I haven't, like, from time to time, I'm like, I wonder what had happened if I had moved to Colorado. I don't really think about it very often, but from time to time I do. I mean, I'm somebody that's like, well, what if I had gone to a college campus? Would my life have looked differently, you know, because I went to a city school? Or what if I had been involved in sports and stuff in high school? You know, like, would that have changed my outcome? I do think about stuff like that, but not as often as I used to. You know, and I don't even necessarily think that things always turn out the way that they're supposed to. I think it's making sense out of the things that happen to us in our lives. So anyway, let me know what you think about all of those in the comment section below. I don't really know any great lessons for that, except for that over time what I've learned is that change is inevitable. And I can either choose to embrace it and go with it, or go against the grain and be in denial. And that doesn't really help me in the long run anyway. So I've tried to learn to embrace it, but also be honest about my feelings as I'm going through that, and say I'm scared, I'm afraid, I don't know what's coming next. Like this is, you know, and be honest with people that I trust in my life about my feelings as I'm going through that, you know, and saying what I need to say and sharing what I need to say, because I think that that's important. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.